Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and we're back with some more SFO Grimhammer. Once again showcasing the new patch Art of War before it gets released on the 29th of this month, this coming Friday. As always, I do have to remind you that this patch focuses around battles, both custom and in campaign, and anything relating to mechanics will likely come in future patches. In this video we're going to be focusing on Nurgle, as the Plague Lord needed a few changes here and there just to, well, bring him up to line with all the other Chaos gods. So let's just jump right in. Nurglings have been changed quite a bit. Now they don't do armor piercing damage, but instead do anti-large damage, and some normal damage has been increased. This means that they've been changed a bit on how they work in the game, more like, you know, those movies where a bunch of small things grab a bunch of big things and just pull it down. I'm giving a bad reference here, but you know what I mean. It's the idea of a swarm, a proper swarm, so I think that works out quite well. From my testing, they're still very much viable targets, so nothing really changes there. Plague Bearers have had mass and knockback increase, making them being able to stand a little bit more rather than just flying about when horsemen keep charging into them. They've also got a little bit more speed. It's not a massive increase, but it's a bit more than normal, so they'll be able to move around a bit better. I've used this myself. It's not too noticeable, but it is a bit faster and you will start to get to things a bit quicker. Exalted Plague Bearers have also been made a lot stronger now, getting the same upgrades as the Plague Bearers, but also now getting a new effect known as Plague of Nurgle. This is Poison++, a little bit of extra ammunition, and some anti-large bonuses added to the projectiles, so now they feel a bit more elite, and definitely do have much more variety in the battlefield. I'd say that they've become quite a popular unit for me, and they've been featuring a lot more in my armies. Beasts of Nurgle have had their damage output increase, but also have become a bit of a bigger target by increasing their unit entity from 1 to 4. You will take more damage, but however you do have regeneration and so on, so you do have the benefit of that. But the main thing is that you can now smash into enemy lines and do a lot more damage to hordes. This is pretty good pretty much against any race that has a large unit entity with their units, and will be very beneficial later on, eventually when you start dealing with, say for example, Skaven and all that type of stuff. Plague Riders and Pox Toads both have lethal poison. As you can see here, this is a debuff which comes into effect when in contact, melee damage, and now you get quite a few good benefits here, because you'll be debuffing your enemy quite heavily against speed, armor-piercing weapon damage, base weapon damage, and both those effects are against melee and range, so yeah, it's now more beneficial to bring them. I must say, it makes it more useful. I don't tend to bring these a lot in vanilla, mainly because they're kind of squishy, but now they're a bit better. All variants of the flies will now have a new effect known as Buzz, which comes into effect when in close contact with your enemy. This reduces their speed, their leadership, and also removes Encourage. It's the whole idea of the wings being so loud that you can't hear anything else. This is quite a handy debuff and will stop enemies from running away too quickly, especially as these are your fastest units, so you can bog them down and wait for the rest of your army to slowly make their way up there. The Rotflies with the Death Heads will also get some more benefits. For example, they'll also get access to Plague of Nurgle, this is for their range weapons, and more ammunition. This is pretty good because, well, Nurgle kind of lacks on ammunition as a whole, so at least now you've got a little bit more to do a bit more damage. You can circle around your enemy, and it's not just the basic few shots in and you're done, so at least a little bit more support fire has been added in. Great Unclean Ones, specifically the units, have had a knockback increase, which is quite useful, and an increase to anti-infantry, meaning that they're going to be better off dealing against little hordes that are surrounding them, which makes sense. You know, these are big fat demons. If they fall down, you're going to expect them to do a bit of damage. Soul Grinders of Nurgle have been improved in a number of ways. As you know, the SFO patch known as the Art of War, the one that's coming out this Friday, is going to be quite focused on some siege changes. So now you've got Wallbreaker to be able to knock down walls and gates much easier, as the best way to do it is with stuff with Wallbreaker, or say for example a battering ram. Just doing it with your basic units will not really help that much. They've also got access to lethal poison when shooting, so that's going to be a bit better for your supporting fire. Chaos Furies of Nurgle have been more Nurglified by making them do less attacks, but they've got a lot more health now. So now they can hold down enemies without too much of a problem. They're more of a tar pit than they used to be, and I find them a bit more useful. I still don't like Chaos Furies, but this is a long-standing issue since Tabletop, but they are definitely better. Chaos Spawn of Nurgle, as you can see, have received quite a decent glow-up. Can we call it a glow up? They look uglier, but that's a good thing. Anyways, this was made by Dilaguana, so it's been integrated into this mod, and as you can see, they've been changed mechanically too. They've got regeneration. They're now very, very violent types of Beast of Nurgle, essentially. They're a bit faster, they can move around quite quick. They're still able to do a decent amount of damage. They're still considered a glass cannon, but much better to use. The great thing about this is that the integration has allowed for visually looking Chaos Spawn, so your Chaos Spawn look like your actual God-devoted spawn. They work really well and can knock out quite a few good punches. I really like them. Plus, come on, look at them. They look absolutely awesome. This is a big thing here. Forsaken of Nurgle have also been changed just to represent that, well, they're fighting for Nurgle. So here, they've lost Frenzy but now get Cloud of Flies. They've also got shields because they're more of a defensive unit. They're still relatively fast and they can move around, do some damage, but now you can use them as a heavy front line, or you can still use them as shock too. They're multi-purpose, that's probably the best way to describe it now. One of my favorite changes is Palanquins of Nurgle, so this is for the Heralds and the Plague Ridden. Now, if they've decided to have a Palanquin mount, you get the Bolster Leadership ability, which acts as a area effect leadership buff. This is quite useful, as now you have something to act like a buffer, as really Khorne only had access to that with the Blood Shrines, so now you've got a bit of extra stuff here. Spells have also received a few changes. You can check them out as I cycle through them, or pause as you wish. There's also an increased cooldown. This is something that's happening to pretty much every single faction, but the idea is don't be so reliant to magic, have it as a help to you, which works out quite well. Nurgle magic isn't too great, and you do get a lot of bonuses from just units in general, so it depends on your playstyle more than anything. Now, I'm going to show off a battle here, and I'm going to let it play off in a second. It's just to give my general thoughts on how I found the Nurgle changes after a few hours. So, the idea behind Nurgle stays the same. It's still slow, it's still tanky, but you do get a lot more debuffs which do help against the enemy. It's definitely noticeable, and you do become quite powerful. The majority of issues that Nurgle has is, well, unfortunately tied to mostly mechanics, but now your units are a lot stronger and you can feel it here. This is 2 generated armies, randomly generated myself and a Khornate army. The Khornate army does do a decent amount of damage, but I think I've got better units than Khorne at this point. Not overall, I'm talking about the random generation. Keep in mind that with a random generation, everything is down to a amount of money and not just like full 20 stack versus full 20 stack. It definitely does feel a lot better. You can see as it cycles through, and I feel that Nurgle is a lot more enjoyable. Definitely the Chaos Spawn do help. I think the biggest change is the Chaos Spawn, and it definitely makes Nurgle a lot more enjoyable. It's something that I intend to stream eventually as a Nurgle campaign, because I've been kind of avoiding Nurgle, if I can be very honest. Anyways, I'll let the battle play through so you guys can check it out and see what you think. But with all that being said, let me know what you guys think about the Nurgle changes in the comments below. Keep in mind that Venris does keep an eye on the comments, and that helps him plan out stuff for the future if he sees that, yeah, some things need to be changed here. So with all that being said, have a nice day, guys.
Position.